Thanks for letting us barge in here. What a great day. And we were thinking about you, especially since you should be down in Arizona right now, right?
Yes.
According to John's usual schedule. But we'd like you to tell us all about what you do down in Arizona, what you've been doing lately, and you might even just start off with what you did yesterday. Tell us all about what you did yesterday, John.
Okay.
And thank you.
Yesterday, you want to start now?
Yep.
Okay, yesterday I went to Winters at my daughter's house. They live up there in Winters, and my granddaughter lives up there too. They're both teachers, and she is in the high school. She teaches mathematics, and my other daughter, has a kindergarten class, and they're doing quite well up there. So they got together with the teachers at the high school in Winters, and I asked them if they want me to talk about Pearl Harbor, and they were so excited that they hired a big hall, and it was Monday morning, and there was 200 students and teachers came in there, and I made a picture of it. I showed you there. I talked for about 2 hours. They were so excited that they wanted to make sure that I come back next year. I don't know if you can see these on here, but there's 200 students and teachers right there, and I talked for 2 hours about Pearl Harbor, and they were so excited that they didn't want me to stop talking.
So what did they ask you? What kind of questions?
What kind of questions?
Yeah.
They want to know how the Japanese, why they attacked at Pearl Harbor, and they just couldn't understand them coming over there to bomb there. And, well, I gotta tell them that the Japanese were taking over all the small islands in the Pacific, and where all the rubber plantations down there were being occupied by the Japanese, and they were going down to all over the United States. Asked them to stop that, and they stopped sending all of the metal to Japanese, and they stopped selling oil to them, and I guess they decided they're going to get even with us, and that's why they headed Japan to Hawaii. But they had quite I think on that picture that you gave me tells me how many ships there's a listing of all the ships and planes that they had. I was surprised they had 30 submarines, which is unusual to travel, but I guess they had such a big fleet they had to have cover so that nobody would ever know we were coming. Those submarines, if any sailboat or any boat was out there, their order was to sink it and don't even pick up any survivors. So there's no way they could notify Pearl Harbor that they were on their way. So.
And this is what you told the kids yesterday?
Yeah. So they were quite surprised that they would do that, but I guess that's the only way they could have crossed that Pacific, and it probably took them about a week, I guess, to come from Japan to Hawaii. That's quite a trip, and such a big fleet of ships that they had, you know. 30 oil tankers, two battleships, 24 destroyers, such a big fleet. They could have taken all of Hawaii, and if they had troop ships, they could have come in, and we'd probably be talking Japanese now. But their big mistake was not coming back on the third attack and destroying all the dry docks there, so we couldn't repair, because all the ships were repaired except the Oklahoma and the Arizona. Those are the only two that they couldn't get back into service. Oh yeah, there was that one more. There was a target ship.
Utah.
The
Utah.
the Utah. So she was just a target ship, and
So it's really in service.
but they damaged her and they sunk her. So they sunk 8 battleships. That was quite a feat.
So they'd never heard of Pearl Harbor before, these students yesterday?
No,
Really? Huh.
some of the kids, their parents took them there and went to the museum over there, but and then they went on the Missouri, that big battleship that's sitting where the West Virginia was at. She's in that booth there, and they went aboard her. They were quite surprised, such a big ship, and they just couldn't believe that they could sink all those battleships, but they had so many planes, 350 planes. That's a lot of planes. Is there any other things that...
Where else do you speak? What other high schools? Any other high schools?
Oh. The teachers that up there, they too haven't been to Hawaii yet, but they plan on going after this talk I gave them. They're really excited about it. They were very receptive and treated me real nice. I had lunch with them, and I can't think of anything else.
Well, and I've got a few questions for you, John. You did such a good job on our other interviews. We really enjoyed it. But I've got some kind of off the, topic questions, or not off the topic, about Pearl Harbor, but maybe not involving you personally. But how do you feel about President Roosevelt and any possible knowledge of maybe the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor, maybe rather than Midway or something?
Well,
Do you think that anyone in Washington had more of an inkling than they were letting Pearl know? Or did you guys just get caught cold because the Japanese were so good? I don't know.
After Pearl Harbor, the word was we could not talk to anybody about Pearl Harbor for 10 years. And the reason for that, Roosevelt, we felt he was responsible for it. He got word from Churchill that they broke the code, and warned him that the Japanese were preparing to attack Pearl Harbor, but they never did ever notify the admiral or the general at Pearl. They just tied up all the ships, put them in the harbor, and we never did have it. We used to go around all the islands with 4 battleships for 2 weeks, and then the 4 more battleships would relieve them. But that went on for a full year. Then after the 27th of November was Thanksgiving, the president asked them to bring all the ships and tie them all up in Pearl Harbor, and that there'd be no ships out there searching, and they tied all the planes up and no planes searched. So all that time there was nobody flying around, or there was just one little destroyer just traveling around outside the harbor, and they were the ones that sunk that first little submarine before the attack. And there was one small mid-submarine that had come in underneath the Nevada when she came in that night, and she was in the harbor all night. But in the morning when the attack came up, she surfaced and she fired at the California with the submarine. And there was another ship right close by there that it sunk the submarine right there. So the other submarines, they were all destroyed during the war, and some of them ran aground and everything. So there was no, those 5 submarines were out of the service that day. But for 10 years we could not talk about Pearl Harbor, even to our wives or to anybody. So during that time, all of a sudden, I guess it was about 8 years, people were starting to talk about Pearl Harbor, and I said, what happened to the 10 years? But I guess because Roosevelt died and they couldn't prosecute him, I guess then they started having all these talks about the admiral lost his job, and he never could clear his name, but General Stark, he lost his position, but he wasn't didn't hold him responsible, because I think he knew more about going on than the admiral did.
Wow. Yeah, John, that's it. Very interesting, that part of the story. Yeah, I mean, you guys had like 15, 25 Catalina seaplanes at Ford Island, but they weren't flying around looking.
No,
they were training. It just was bizarre. With
everything was tied up. Nobody went up.
In a strange way. Radar not quite working. Now, or not knowing what to do with it. Now, John, how was it to be a Pearl Harbor survivor? As you said, the first 8 years, or supposedly 10 years, you weren't even supposed to talk. I can imagine being in World War II, and then a lot of Korean veterans, they're coming back saying, hey, I was in Normandy, I was at the Battle of the Bulge, or I was an ace pilot. And then here you guys are, Pearl Harbor survivors. I mean, it's kind of like Bunker Hill or the Alamo.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that in America, we revere the Alamo, we revere Bunker Hill, but they weren't actually successes for the American military. How was it to be a Pearl Harbor survivor, to be a proud military man? Was it something that people looked up to, or was it something that you kept quiet about? As a kid, I'm asking this question because as a kid, I can remember people probably didn't really talk about being at Pearl Harbor. It might have been almost an embarrassment to be caught cold. I mean, it's kind of sad to say, but you guys did get caught, kind of with your pants down. And what an embarrassment. But yet each individual guy fought back with honor and throughout the war. So thank you, John. We'd like to hear what it was like